In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro continues inaugurating health and education institutions for the communities in the south of the country after his nationwide tour. The United Nations Children Fund in Haiti warns that between 30 to 50% of the members of the armed group in the country are children who are victims of coercion, abuse, and exploitation. More than 30 Palestinians were killed in the last 24 hours following a new Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro continues inaugurating health and education institutions for the communities in the south of the country after his nationwide tour. On this occasion, the national president visited Puerto Ayacucho in the state of Amazonas, where he had over an imaging and oncology room at the Jose Maria Vargas Popular Clinic. The room has most innovative technology to provide better attention to oncology patients, guaranteeing the Venezuelan people's right to health. During the activity, the head of state described this achievement as a new victory over the economic bloc imposed by the United States, demonstrating once again that despite more than 930 sanctions, the executive continues to respond to the problem faced by the country in the different areas.
It is a victory over the sanctions, and what I tell the people is that they will not be able to do whatever they want to do. They are doomed to defeat. Here the people will win. We will defeat the sanctions, in health, in industry, in agriculture, in everything. We are defeating the sanctions.
Nicolas Maduro also assured that the right wing will not privatize public health care or the social rights of citizens.
I had to come, and I came to Puerto Ayacucho, Amazonas, to present this wonderful clinic for all the people, recovering public health. Strengthening public health. No one will come to take away the people's social rights. No one will come to privatize public health.
In this context, the Venezuelan government also delivered infrastructure work for educational purposes in the state of Amazonas. According to the executive, the structure will benefit the academic, humanistic, and scientific training of more than 750 students. During the inauguration of the work, the head of state, Nicolas Maduro, was received by ancestral ethnic groups, hymns, dances, and prayers. Still in Venezuela, the International Seminar of New Holocausts in the 21st Century, Zionism Threatening the World, continues in the city of Caracas. During the forum, international experts analyze the situation in Palestine in the light of international law and as a cause of resistance. The seminar will also address several legal, media, and humanitarian dimensions of the Israeli crimes in Palestine. The conference, organized by the Bolivarian University of Venezuela, will be held at the Romulo Gallegos Center and for Latin American and Caribbean Studies in the country's capital. And we move on to Mexico, where President López Obrador and President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum, as part of their first governmental tour, led a justice plan focus on the Pasta de Conchos mining disaster that left 65 miners dead in 2006. During their first stop in Villa San Juan de Sabinas, located in the state of Coahuila, they committed to the families of the miners involved to resume the rescue of the bodies. The national executive also took the opportunity to express his condolences, his confidence, in the government that Sheinbaum is about to initiate, assuring that it will be a historic event after 200 years of Mexican independence. Earlier, a woman was killed on Friday in Mexico when the car she was traveling in collided with an advanced vehicle of President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum's team in the northern state of Coahuila. The accident happened when Sheinbaum and her team were traveling from Monterrey to San Juan Sabinas in the neighboring state of Coahuila to meet together with President López Obrador with the relative of the 65 miners who died in 2006 in the Pasta de Conchos mine. The National Land Agency of Colombia reported this Friday the delivery of land titles to 35 families victims of the armed conflict. 809 acres of land were handed over to grow corn, rice, bananas, and beans 27 years after the massacre that took place in the municipality of Ituango in the north of the department of Antioquia. The beneficiary families suffered this event perpetrated by paramilitaries on October 22, 1997, which left 15 peasants murdered, 42 houses burned, and more than 1,400 people displaced. The United Nations Children's Fund in Haiti warned that between 30 and 50% of the members of the armed groups in the country are children who are victims of coercion, abuse, and exploitation. In a report, the UN entity indicated that the children are often forced to join armed groups as a means to support their families or because of threats against them or their loved ones. The document also notes that there is a record of more than 400 grave violations against children and reported that more than 180,000 children are displaced within the country. On Friday in Cuba, the Antonio Gutierrez thermoelectric power plant located in the province of Matanzas, fire was reported in one of the full tanks at that plant. According to the local authorities, the fire was controlled and extinguished after 6 hours with no loss of lives. The authorities also informed that the cause of the event are still under investigation, but so far there is no suspicion that the fire was arson or intentional. The Royal Canadian Navy patrol vessel HMCS Margaret Booker arrived on June 14 at the port of Havana on an official visit in the context of the 50th anniversary of mutual cooperation ties. According to the statement issued by the Cuban Revolutionary Navy, the ship belongs to a new series recently introduced in the Navy of Canada, and its visits to the islands highlights bilateral collaboration to contribute to peace in the region. In turn, the training ship AAB Simón Bolívar from Venezuela will visit the eastern province of Santiago de Cuba from June 15 to the 19 as part of the 34th Overseas Training Cruisers in 2024. On June 12, a group of Russian Navy ships also docked in Havana, composed of the frigate Gorshkov, the nuclear-powered submarine Kazan, the fleet oil tanker Pashin, and the submerged tug Nikolai Kishker. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, more than 30 citizens were killed in the last 24 hours following a new Israeli attack in the Gaza Strip. The health agency statement noted that the Israeli occupation was committing 4 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours, with 34 deaths and 71 wounded transferred to the hospitals. The total number of victims since the last October 7, 2023 grew to 37,266 dead and over 85,100 wounded. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine warned on Friday about a United States plan to impose a guardianship in political and security matters in the Gaza Strip. The lefty formation rejected Washington's project to disarm the Palestinian militias and state that only the Palestinian people have the right to decide the fate of the territory. In Palestine, a 12-year-old boy died from malnutrition and dehydration in addition to the lack of medical supplies as a result of the ongoing Israeli side against the Gaza Strip. The death of Mustafa Hiyazi brought to 40 the total number of diseases due to the famine-like conditions and the humanitarian crisis affecting the Palestinian population. Meanwhile, the Israeli army continues bombing and raiding several areas of the territory, increasing the humanitarian catastrophe that leads to the death of hundreds of Palestinians daily. The UN Secretariat General submitted to the Security Council an annual report on violations of the human rights of children in armed conflicts, with Israel at the top of the list. Through an official communique, the United Nations organizations detailed that the Tel Aviv regime was included in the blacklist of countries violating children's rights worldwide. The document indicated that most serious cases of violations of children's rights have been perpetrated by the Israeli army, registered at least 7,833 violations against some 4,247 Palestinian children in the West Bank. On Fridays, hundreds of young Israelis organized a rally in Jerusalem to protest rape culture and victim blaming and shaming in raising cases of domestic violence. This mobilization is part of the international movement known as Slut Walk, which, in addition to denunciating sexual violence, also oppose to the justification of rape by referring any aspect of a woman's appearance. Rally attempts to raise their voices to end the Israeli police and government's violence against women, while social activists also condemn the patriarchal administration of Benjamin Netanyahu.
I think it was more important than ever. I think that war and the patriarchy are both the result of the same reality, unfortunately. And in this war, we see a lot of violence towards women, and I think we are here to say that we believe every woman that violence against women is never okay, and that it's never our fault.
The science says that we have been neglected, that negligence starts in the corridors of the government, and I refer to the negligence of Netanyahu's government that has been impotent for 20 years, and it is doing bad things to Israel in general, to women, and to all of us, and to the Middle East. Not only to us, we have neighbors to consider.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR Financial Break. Don't go away. Welcome back. On Friday, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, described as stiff the freezing of the country's assets abroad and warned that the move will not go unpunished.
Western countries froze part of Russian assets and foreign exchange reserves. Now they are thinking about how to provide at least some legal basis in order to finally appropriate them. But despite all the trickery, theft is still theft and will not go unpunished. But the issue goes even deeper. By stealing Russian assets, they will take another step towards the destruction of the system that they themselves created and which for many decades ensured their prosperity, allowing them to consume more than they earn through debts and obligations to attract money from all over the world.
In addition, President Putin stressed the need to guarantee the rights of Russian citizens in Ukraine.
Of course, the rights, freedoms, and interests of Russian-speaking citizens in Ukraine must be fully guaranteed. The new territorial realities, the status of Crimea, Sevastopol, the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions as subjects of the Russian Federation must be recognized. In the future, all these basic and fundamental provisions must be embodied in fundamental international agreements. Naturally, this also envisages the lifting of all Western sanctions on Russia.
And in Italy, a group of demonstrators took to the streets to protest against the meeting of the group of 7 G7. The demonstration took place in Fasano in the luxurious Apulian resort where the 15th edition of the two-day international summit was taking place. The demonstration was organized by trade unions, students, and several activist groups. They protest against war policies and military spending, the impoverishment of the labor forces, the decline of public services, the criminalization of migration, and to demand a socially and environmentally sustainable war.
People are tired of dissenting when there is never any real response. Therefore, especially now, the G7 is so far removed from the people, so far removed from the territory, so far removed from real needs, that we cannot even oppose them because we speak two different languages. We speak a language of peace, solidarity, humanity, work, and the environment, and they speak the G7. And we are truly tired. There isn't even the possibility to confront each other. As a result, people don't even participate in dissent because they don't recognize an antagonist in this G7. They don't recognize them at all.
Also in Italy, several climate activists protest in the vicinity of the G7 press center, demanding answers to the fuel crisis. Activists at even point out that the summit had produced a lot of concrete commitments and that most of the pledge had already been agreed at previous lower-level meetings on this issue. The environmental leaders also stressed that the G7 should abandon public investments in natural gas, another polluting fossil fuel that affects the well-being of the planet Earth. On Friday, Cambodian authorities burned out over 4 tons of illegal drugs as part of the government's ongoing efforts to combat substance trafficking in the country. After the Prime Minister Hun Mahathir took office in 2023, the nation showed an upward trend of drugs arrests and seizures. Due to its geographical position, the United Nations Office of Drug and Crimes revealed Cambodia serves as a major transit road for drug trafficking. Consequently, the majority of substances seized come from the Golden Triangle, where the Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand covered. And now changing topics. The European Football Championship, known as Euro Cup 2024, begins on Friday and will run until July the 14th. Let's see.
The 2024 edition, which will be held in Germany for the second time, is the 17th edition of the European tournament, which will bring together 24 national teams. The defending champion is the Italian national team, which was crowned champion for the second time in 2021 after defeating England in the penalty shootout series. It should be noted that Germany and Spain are the maximum champions in the history of the European Championship with 3 titles each. On the other hand, it is worth noting that the French team, which has been one of the most successful teams in recent decades, the last time to win the Euro Cup dates back to 1984.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well for Telesur English. And from the south, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.